Okay, today vamos a repasar algunos de los verbos irregulares. So we're going to review some of the irregular verbs that you know and some that you do not know. So make sure you have your note sheet out that I gave you. The first side says regular preterite. On the second side, if you flip it over, you will see a section that says irregular verbs. So what I would like you to do is fill out dar, ver, ir, and ser from the boxes on the screen. These are irregular verbs that you learned at the beginning of Spanish 2. And as you remember, irregular verbs do not have accent marks. So dar does not have accent marks. So we have di, diste, dio, dimos, diste, dieron. And also I would suggest that you write what dar means. It means to give, no? And also, obviously, gave in Spanish. I gave, you gave, he, she, you gave, etc. Y después tenemos ver. We have ver, which is to see. Ver has the same conjugations as dar, except ver starts with a V rather than dar starts with a D. Last, we have ir and ser. Ir is to go. Ser is to be. Now you probably noticed already that they have all I's in all the forms except for the third person. So fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, fuisteis, fueron, por ejemplo. So that is a review, but these are very important verbs. Lo siento. The next thing we are going to go over is something new, and it's actually las familias, it's the families, and it's called Juvi, and it's pretty much an acronym, so that it will help us remember all of these irregular verbs that are used so often. So under the J column, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to copy down all of these verbs. Decir, traer, conducir, producir, traducir. Now, they have a different stem. Make sure you write the English next to them. These all have a different stem. They're in the J category because, as you notice, they all have J's in them. Decir, pay attention. Decir, lo siento. Decir has an I in it as well, so pay attention to the I. I would suggest you get a different color and you write the J's in a different color. So those are the J stems. Now, if you remember, there's two parts to a verb. When I'm talking about the stem, what do I mean? I'm talking about the first part of the verb. For example, hablar has two parts. You have the stem, and then you have the ending. You are very familiar with the endings. They are AR, ER, IR. And then the stem is the other part that doesn't include the ending. So that's what we're talking about here is the first part changes. The first part has a J in it, okay? For conducir and producir, the C, is removed, and the J is added, okay? As well as decir, so you can always look for patterns. Traer, you just add a J. So the next family, and we're going to talk about the endings in a second and how to form them, is the U family. So we have poder, which is pud, poner, which is pus, saber, which is soup. Make sure you write down all this, the English as well, because some of the words mean something different in the preterite tense. Poder in the preterite means to succeed. It does not mean to be able to or can. And saber means to find out. It does not mean to know. There's another tense that you're going to learn in a month or so that when you use poder in the past tense, it means to be able to or can. And saber in the imperfect tense, that's the other tense, means to know. So all of these are in the U category because they have U's in them. But look for other changes as well. Saber also has a P in it, right? The B changes to a P. Then you have the V family, okay, which actually has a UV in it. Okay, andar is andu. It is to. Andar here means to walk. You've probably seen andar en patineta, andar en bicicleta. Andar is used for a lot of expressions, which don't mean to walk. But when it's used by itself, when it's not an expression, it means to walk, just like caminar. So these are the stems for the V family. And then we have the I family. And hacer, you recognize hacer, right? You already memorized this one. Hacer is is. And then make sure you also write that in the LA usted form, it's H-I-Z. Querer is quis, venir is vin. Now, querer in the preterite does not mean wanted. It means to try. So we really need to practice these three because they have different meanings in the preterite. Now, we're going to go on to the endings. These are all irregulars. So they have a different stem, a different beginning, and they also have different endings. Everything's pretty much different about these. So for these Juvi verbs, right, make sure you write these down on the bottom, they have these endings right here. And since they're irregular, just like dar and ver and ir and ser and hacer, they don't have accent marks. You are very familiar with these endings. These are the endings for hacer. You already know them. You memorized them from before. Remember, hice, hiciste, hizo, hicimos, hicisteis, hicieron. So you know these endings. And there are no accent marks. That's very important. You can also look at these and say the E and the O is the regular AR endings. And the other ones are the regular E or IR endings. You also have to pay attention, you might want to circle in a different color, that the third person plural, if it's a J stem, is E-R-O-N, not I-E-R-O-N. So I'm going to show you how to conjugate a verb. We're going to put saber in the box so you can see how to conjugate it. You can have an example. So I want you to write this down right now. If you notice, it would be great if you put your endings in a different color. If you notice now, soup, S-U-P, is the stem. Okay, so you put soup in all of the beginning parts of it. And then the endings, E, iste, O, imos, istes, ieron, are the irregular endings that are right here. So now let's practice this. I'm going to give you a couple examples first, and then you can do it. So yo decir, look back on your notes. The stem of decir is D-E-C, correct? I-R is the ending. So there's two steps. So the first step is you look back and you say, okay, the stem is D-I-J. Okay, now you have your stem. Then you look at your endings and say, okay, that's the yo form. It's the E. No accent mark. That's dije. Dije. Ella querer. Got to look back. Okay, what is the stem? That's Q-U-I-S. And then it's ella, which is quiso, with an O. Quiso. Nosotros saber. Well, that's actually on your sheet already. But you can just, without looking on the sheet, you can look at the stem and say it's soup. And then the ending for that is I-M-O-S, supimos. So now it's your turn. What I would like you to do, and there is no accent mark on the U. Lo siento. That should have an accent mark, right? There. What I want you to do is I want you to now try to conjugate these on your own. First put the stem in, then your ending, then come back and check. So pause it right now. Okay, now that you're back, here are your conjugations. How do you think you did? You have your stem, and then your ending. Your stem, right? Your ending. Stem, whoops, I went a little too far. Stem, your ending. Okay. Food is your stem and your ending. Stem, ending, except that stem, ending. Okay. So write down any questions that you have, and we're going to be reviewing this for the next several days. Adios.